designed for feeding by hand as it is manufactured as of the date of this video, to explain some of the more popular devices and controls. The feed wheel control bar operates the direction of the rotation of the feed wheels to pull in, push out, or have the feeding wood in a neutral position or stopped. On mechanical hand-fed chippers, to make the feed wheels pull the material in, you pull the feed wheel control bar all the way away from the chipper, toward the operator. If you want to push the material out of the chipper, push the feed wheel control bar all the way toward the chipper, away from the operator. There is a feed wheel control position between the two that puts the feed wheels in a neutral operation. Your Bandit chipper may be equipped with our patented reversing auto feed system that will sense the load or operating speed of the chipper feed or drivetrain. When the machine is under extreme load and/or the power system falls below an acceptable RPM setting, it reacts on the hydraulic feed wheel system. The reversing auto feed system will reverse the feed wheels a few inches and then stop the power to the feed wheels. It will then restart the feed wheels once the load on the chipper is reduced and the drivetrain speed is back to the acceptable RPM range. The switch control for engaging the reversing auto feed system is a simple off and on device. If your machine is equipped with this device, it is used to power lift, float, or power down the top feed wheel and its mounting yoke. On most machines, the hydraulic control handle for this function is located on both sides of the infeed hopper via a common bar system. If you horizontally push and hold the control handle towards the tongue of the machine, it powers the top feed wheel down to help crush and bite into the material being fed. If you pull or hold the end of the control handle towards the rear or infeed hopper end of the chipper, it will raise the top feed wheel to allow a bigger opening for feeding material. When you release the control handle, it should automatically return to a center position that lets the top feed wheel float up and down on the material as it feeds in. If your chipper is equipped with a hydraulic-powered winch, it will also have a selector valve control. The selector valve is used to direct the hydraulic power to one function at a time. In this case, it directs the power to either the feed wheel system or to the winch. You are not able to operate both systems at the same time. To operate the feed system, the selector valve handle must be pushed all the way in towards the chipper. To operate the winch, the selector valve handle must be pulled all the way out, away from the chipper and towards the operator. The hydraulic winch has 3 different controls for it. One is having the selector valve in the correct position, one is the mechanical clutch lock on the winch itself, and the other is the hydraulic control valve to operate the winch. We have already discussed the selector valve position to power the winch. The mechanical clutch on the winch has 2 positions. With the clutch handle down and the spring lock pin in, the motor and winch are hooked into drive mode. With the clutch handle up and the spring lock pin pulled out away from the handle, the clutch is disengaged from the motor. The actual power drive for the winch is operated by a hydraulic control valve. The valve is typically a manual 3-position valve. If the valve handle is pushed and held toward the chipper, away from the operator, the winch should feed the cable outward. If the valve handle is pulled and held away from the chipper, towards the operator, the winch should pull the wood material to be chipped towards the chipper infeed hopper. If the valve handle is released, it should return to the center or neutral position. The winch must be operated, maintained, and the cable installed per the manufacturer's manual that is shipped with the machine. Operating the winch is a one-person operation. The person that handles the winch cable is the same person that operates the controls. When you need to get the cable off the winch spool and out to the wood material that needs to be pulled in, it is recommended that the winch clutch be disengaged to allow freewheeling of the winch spool. Then the cable can just be pulled out to the work site without powering it out that might tangle the cable on the spool. The winch may be equipped with a remote control switch. It is usually radio remote. The in and out cable functions are labeled on the switch itself. The basic swivel for the discharge spout is simply manual. The swivel itself is equipped with the transport bolt and the spring lock pin. Without pinning it in place, the discharge would rotate freely during chipping operation. Both have to be removed or disengaged to rotate the discharge spout and securely reinstalled prior to transporting the machine. To rotate the discharge, the person would typically grip the end of the discharge spout without putting his or her hand into the flow of discharging chips. The discharging chips are dangerous projectiles and should never be directed towards people, animals, vehicles, or structures that would cause injury or damage. Do not direct the discharge spout towards the workers in the chipping or tree trimming area. The swivel plates should be lubricated periodically for smooth operation, and they should be adjusted as well to keep sloppy fit to a minimum. Follow the instructions in the chipper manual. The discharge spout should be positioned over the chipper tongue with the spring lock pin and the transport bolts securely installed during transport of the chipper. The hand crank swivel discharge spout is a modified version of the manual swivel discharge spout, and all of the previously stated instructions apply. Except, the swivel action itself is done by a T-handle connected with sprockets and chain to the swivel plates on the discharge. Manually turn the T-handle clockwise and the discharge spout rotates to the right. Turn the T-handle counterclockwise and the discharge rotates to the left. Your machine may be equipped with a hydraulic controlled swivel for the discharge spout. To make the discharge spout swivel to the right or clockwise, push and hold the control valve lever down toward the ground. To make the discharge spout swivel to the left or counterclockwise, push and hold the control valve lever up, away from the ground. The manual adjustable discharge flipper is located at the end of the discharge spout and is the most common way of adjusting the discharged chip flow up or down. You will achieve the strongest chip flow with the discharge flipper adjusted so that it is in line with the straight section of the discharge spout. The handle that positions the angle of the discharge flipper is spring-loaded to a shaft that inserts into one of several positioning holes that secures the flipper at a desired angle. Pinch grip the handle, pivot the flipper to the desired angle, and release the handle spring shaft into the lock notch. So the more you deflect or restrict that straight flow of chips, the more possibility there is of clogging the discharge spout. To raise the angle of the hydraulic-powered discharge flipper, push and hold the valve lever up, away from the ground. To lower the angle of the hydraulic discharge flipper, push and hold the valve lever down, towards the ground. Some chippers are ordered with the adjustable height discharge. The height adjustment is accomplished by the use of a tongue jack device with a hand crank. The straight section of the discharge is mounted to the elbow of the discharge with a hinge. As you rotate the crank one way, it raises the discharge angle. When you rotate it the other way, it lowers the discharge angle. Most of the discharges include a stop bar that restricts the rotation of the crank once it is positioned at the required discharge height. Most chippers are equipped with a conventional hand crank tongue jack. The jack may be one of several styles and lifting capacities, depending on the type of chipper it is or what optional jack was ordered on the chipper. The tongue jack could have a flat plate foot pad or a caster wheel on the bottom. It may have a crank handle on the top or on the side of the jack body. They are all of simple design that when you rotate the jack crank one way, the chipper tongue goes up. When you rotate it the other way, the tongue goes down. If the jack has a pivot mount system, it must be pivoted so that the jack is stored and securely pinned, usually in a horizontal position for transport. When the jack is in use, it is positioned and securely pinned in the vertical direction. If the jack is a rigid welded vertical mount, make sure that the foot pad is cranked all the way up prior to transporting the machine. Some of the tongue jacks are also built with a telescopic tube system for a drop-down foot pad. These must be secured in position during use, whether it is extended or retracted. Hydraulic tongue jacks are equipped with a slip-in lock pin to ensure that the jack will stay in the raised position whenever the machine is being transported. When you are going to use the hydraulic tongue jack, this pin must be removed prior to activating the hydraulics. Reinstall the pin whenever the jack is in the raised position. To lower the jack and raise the chipper tongue, pull and hold the hydraulic valve lever up, away from the ground. To lower the chipper tongue, push and hold the hydraulic valve lever down, towards the ground. When the valve lever is released,